But isn't this, because your book presents him as somebody who lacks the moral grounds to criticize in the administration, isn't that a personal attack on him?
It's not a question of personal attack. When a man who has done all that Obasanjo did in this country, we seem to have a very short memory, collective amnesia, not to remember. I mean, a president that was in this country under Obasanjo, do not forget, it was under Obasanjo that this country was voted the most corrupt country in the world by Transparency International.
And it was under his watch.
Yes.
That, some things were set straight in terms of the EFCC. And I think our association with Transparency International, remember that Mrs. Obi Ezekwesili, one of the founding members of that particular organization, was also a part of his administration. Due process was one of the things that was put in place. How well have we followed through with some of the attempts to build institutions in this current administration?
Let's not go to that debate. What did he do with the FCC? The FCC under Obasanjo also became just attack dogs against his passive opponents. There are corrupt people sitting in Kawu with Obasanjo. Himself was an epitome of corruption.
I like to restrict myself to this.
There was a joke.
Mr. Odumakin, I like to restrict myself to this book because first, I'm also trying to look at what some people have started writing that, okay, you haven't read Obasanjo's book before yours was being compiled.
Yeah, sure.
But again, when you finished, did Obasanjo's book inspire you to title yours?
Oh, sure, definitely.
Okay, because his is My Watch.
My Watch.
And yours is...
Watching the Watcher.
Watching the Watcher? Or Watch the Watcher?
Yes, because Obasanjo over the years is always about me. My command, my will, my watch, my this. Okay. So the whole idea, once Obasanjo is, you know what Obasanjo will always do.
I go back to that book, My Watch. Quite an interesting book. Yeah. There's no ban on reading it anyway. Yeah, sure. So quite an interesting book, and almost everything. Because when you say they are all a bundle of lies, I want to know if I've been reading lies, because some are interesting to the extent that you say, for a moment, I think Obasanjo is honest and truthful on these statements. He said something about Ganifa-Oemi, and he praised him to high heaven. And he said, to him, that's the only Nigerian he believes when he stands for anything, he is there all through. No one has said that's a lie. And he went on to say about Professor Wale Soyinka, perhaps that was why the Nobel laureate had to, react to that. He said, well, he doesn't see anything good other than anything coming from himself and his protégés. I'm sure you read that too.
Yeah, sure. Of course.
So you don't expect him not to react to that because it's as if he's taking a swipe on the professor.
Well, I think...
But for other politicians, some of them that he mentioned, Tony Aneni and so many other names, some Nigerians will say, wait a minute, I think we've been around in the 90s and 2000, and truly it looks like there's some element of truth in this.
Look,
we can't possibly, where I'm driving at, can we possibly say everything in those volumes are wrong?
No, I once said on this program, and I think that we were talking about the Washington theme, that those who hawk cocaine, if you are going to MMA2 now, they will not carry a whole bag and load with cocaine. And they say, well, open your luggage. From the beginning to the end, it's cocaine. They will put some legitimate items and put the cocaine inside.
Okay. But your own book, is it all loaded with cocaine? So that when we open it from...
All legitimate goods.
And what's the legitimate ones?
It was the legitimate ones. Because it would seem that you set out personally to attack him.
No,
that's what it would seem like. He set out to write what he did in his 8 years, set the record straight. This is, from my own perspective, this is my account. Now, if you have issues with that, it would seem that you took, an issue with that, and you've written an entire book just to say you're not the man you paint yourself to be.
Yeah, because what's his own account on his own laundromat. What I've tried to do now is to put the authentic accounts side by side. The Obasanjo, and it's not only me talking here. When you read the book, I have 25 other witnesses. including his own wife, his own son, his own daughter. And look, it's amazing. I have not seen anybody who is related to this man, who has worked with him, who has experience of him. They have much positive to say. If you had the lunch, you have seen Konebelo Fadile. That was heart-rending. That General Obasanjo continues to lie against him today. That he wrote a letter that implicated him, that they were planning to remove Abacha. We sat down to plan to remove Abacha and make you Obasanjo head of the government. And when the thing went awry, myself, Bekwaran Kuti, and Yaradua agreed that I should write a letter to help your case, and I want to turn that to the truth. But you know that we sat down together to plan this thing.
So what is it that people are missing? Because, I mean, in your book, 280 pages, I think, you looked at during his military years, democracy, even till date.
Yes.
So why would he then set out to put in print, in black and white, if what you say is a lie?
Because, you see, it was Khalil Gibran in the Guardian of the Prophet who said that pity the nation whose statesman is a fox. With due respect, the former president has proved to be one of the greatest foxes in this country. And because he thinks very little of us, that's why he can begin to come out every now and then to assert our sensibility.
You don't think that has been uncharitable to him?
He assaults our sensibility every now and then. From my command to my watch, it has been about assaulting public sensibility.
But I thought by now we should have been able to get some lessons from all of this when he speaks. There are some lessons we can learn. If we say, for instance, the fight against corruption is also skewed during his era, they will now place evil on a scale and will say greater evil, lesser evil. Which is better. It's still, if you look at what we have experienced in his time, it would seem as if maybe some would say it's a lesser evil than what we have now. Have you seen the drive in the EFCC and ICPC of today compared to what we saw in Obasanjo's regime?
Well, to be frank with ourselves, while Obasanjo was using the EFCC for his political ends to harass his
So he truly did that?
Oh, he did quite a lot of that. I mean, Chivandi said at that lunch that Mike Adenuga of Glo, while Obasanjo was setting EFCC to be harassing him, was extorting money from him to go and build his university. Let him deny it. But I must say that the EFCC as of today, I think they're in a sleeping mode. Today, when you hear them taking anybody to court, it's maybe some 419, some cyber criminals and the rest of the and I think they should be more up and doing.
I don't want to humor that line about, serial rapists coming to come and talk about
rape
or give a lecture on rape. But I mean, if a serial rapist, if that is what if I'm going to go with that, you don't think that he will be able to identify someone of like mind, as it were? We've seen situations where criminals, I mean, hardened criminals or people who are really good at doing something, after they have been, reprimanded for whatever it is that they've done or corrected, they are brought into security agencies to come and see how they can help catch people who, will have that kind of tendency.
But the opening line? The opening line is that when I was doing it, before they now begin to talk about the evils of it, but Obasanjo never recognized what he did. He just come like a pastor and begin to preach.
I think it's possible for us to achieve so many things in Nigeria. That's what I'm thinking. Isn't it possible that this book, or Watch the Watcher, was hurriedly put together in response to Obasanjo's My Watch after the release? You quickly got yourself in somewhere. Maybe someone paid you. You just put everything together and quickly said, well, Obasanjo, you have failed, you haven't done well, and this is my own copy. In any case, yours doesn't have a ban or a court injunction.
First of all,
on it.
Take back.
No, I'm asking a question.
No, take back that maybe someone paid you. That's an insult to my integrity. Well, the question is, very clear. My business all my life has been writing. I've done nothing in my life than writing. And as a journalist, as this, as that, and the rest. That's what I do. So if you put a challenge, I can write a volume 2 of this book in a week. I know this subject so well.
Yeah, but Mr. Odumakin, you mustn't also forget that a lot of people, I mean, you've said yourself that you're now, you want this current administration to return in very clear terms. I think you've said that at a forum. You were quoted as saying that because of the national conference and implementing the national conference report, you would want this administration to return. And if you think that the book that President Obasanjo has done is going to be of damage, do you think that this is some response to help that particular
That's conjectures.
It might be conjecture. I'm asking you.
It's conjectures. Read the introduction part of this book. Get a copy. Read it, and you know why I've written this book. So don't mix apple and oranges.
So do you think this book does the job which you have set it out to do?
Read it.
Your subject.
That's why we have the author
exactly,
here.
that's why we have the author here. And you know, your subject, whether or not you like it, you're going to be subject to all sorts of conjecture. The same way President Obasanjo has been subject to conjectures. I mean, as to the timing of his book, or is it being vindictive, or is it because he didn't get this? Let us not forget that this criticism did not just start with the release of My Watch. It started with the release of his open letter to the president. And, you know, even some comments he's been making before that time, you know, but even more vividly and more, I don't know how to use that word now, but more strongly after he wrote that letter. And we've been saying on the front pages of the papers, you're a career liar, you're a serial liar, is full of lies and, you know, stuff like that. We're just saying that whether or not you like it, for writing this book, you've also put yourself up for some amount of attack by those who will support him.
I'm used to that.
The question is, what will be your response to those people in terms of, if these kinds of questions are put to you, what is your motive exactly for writing? If these other motives are attributed to your book, what would you have to say in response to that?
If you cannot stand the heat, don't get into the kitchen. For those of us who are stuck at our necks to come in the public glare, you are open to this kind of things. So we are used to it. But the most important thing is that once you are true to your conscience, I've stated my motive for writing this book. It will not only be about Obasanjo. There will be more of it. Or not those who have had the kind of position Obasanjo had. Because if Obasanjo had been a businessman, maybe he has a company, he was running his university and the rest, what's my business with him? But because he has 11 years out of it, 4 years, he's a president, and we know what he did. So, like I said, this is a public intellectual service. So it's not about if Adenuga or Liganza writes a book today, what's my business with him?
Let me get this in. Deji Phillips says to ask you, taking that your title changed after his book came out, he likes to know, what was the title before your watch came out? I mean, My Watch came out.
Well, that's not important now, but the idea I had before, like I said, in fact, if you read my article in the Guardian about 2005, I said that I was planning to write that article after Obasanjo must have left office. But I was forced to write that in the Guardian then, because of when he went to say at some function that the stubbornness is the Nigerians see him. It's a streak of his owness. And that's my preface to that article that I was planning to do this after Obasanjo must have left office. It was 2005. So it's not an idea that just came today.
Are you from Owu as well?
Well, I'm not from Owu. There's an interesting thing about the Owu thing that time. You know, when he said the stubbornness was an Owu streak. And what I did in that article that time was to go back to how the Owu people got dispersed from the original Owule in Osun State now. Because not Ogun State of now. There was a problem in Akbomu when some Owu may kill an Ife woman. And that led to a war between the Ifes and the Owus, and the with the Jebus invaded Owule, and that's how the Owu was dispersed. And the interdiction was issued that time must not be rebuilt on the early part of the last century. So I'm on a very familiar terrain with these subjects, and I know these subjects so well. And some of us will not. It's good that God has planned me to live long this way, in his lifetime. We need to put his records right before him.
All right. Thank you for coming on. Yinka Odumakin is the author of Watch the Watcher. Thank you for coming on this morning.
My pleasure.
We'll be back after this break. We've got another response to what's going on. So just hang on. We'll be back.